Hello and welcome. This DVD presentation is about a block I've formulated called Calsorb. Calsorb's been trialled for over 5 years and it treats calcium deficiency in horses. Calcium deficiency is a problem all over Australia and Calsorb not only treats but prevents it, doesn't it, Claire? In the end stage of calcium deficiency in horses, we get swelling of the nasal bones here, the facial crests, the maxilla and the mandible, which gives this disease the expressive name of big head.
Then we noticed that foals born with beautiful heads, as they were weaned and attained yearling status, that their heads were changing and they were getting plain in the head, and that is thickened down the sides, it's thickened in the face here and it's thickened down here, and I couldn't understand why these beautiful heads turned into ordinary heads.
You can see we have a clinical case here. We have a young horse with swelling of the facial bones, this little grey mare that's closest to us walking through the hay. She has clinical signs of big head swelling from the calcium deficiency. She hasn't been on supplementation, but we're pretty hopeful that over the next 2 or 3 months those swellings will resolve and she'll go back to having the lovely head she had before. Eyes are a blunt instrument for determining the severity of the condition. But once they get clinical signs in the head, you can be sure that other bones are affected as well. The disease was first described at 400 years AD, so that's 2,500 years ago, and it was widespread in the 1900s in American military horses and in draft horses, and it was called Miller's disease or bran disease because horses on high grain and high bran diets got it. And then it was first described in Australia in 1974 in horses on pasture, and since then it's been described in Canada, the United States, Spain, Germany, the Netherlands, Japan, Philippines, Hawaii, Thailand, and South Africa, and it's related to, in these cases, to grazing pastures that are high in oxalates, oxalates are a chemical that binds up the calcium in the plant and which it's then unavailable to the horse.
The lactating mares and the mares in foal began to show really serious signs of lameness and pain, actual pain when you see them trot away, and they were always the mares that gave the most to their foals.
The range of clinical signs is quite interesting because in older horses you very rarely get the expressive name of big head. Big head is not a characteristic of the disease. It's an end stage, usually seen in younger horses. The older horses have a generalised osteoporosis and maybe dental problems. The basic problem with big head, whether it's in unweaned foals or stabled horses or horses on pasture, is an imbalance in the calcium to phosphorus ratio. The body likes to keep that in a fairly narrow range, so if there's insufficient calcium in the diet or too much phosphorus, or the calcium can't be absorbed from the feed, then the calcium phosphorus ratio becomes unbalanced And what happens then is there's a little gland in the horse's throat. It's in all species. In fact, big head occurs in goats and rabbits and rats and pigs and monkeys, but it's principally a disease of horses. But in all species that it occurs in, it occurs because the parathyroid gland, which sits here near the thyroid, detects the falling blood calcium levels. So what it does is it releases a hormone called the parathyroid hormone, and that causes release of calcium from the bones. Just little amounts, you know, to keep that blood calcium levels up. Now, if that goes on for a long time, well, even 2 or 3 months, then the bones start to lose their mineral. So that's the problem. It's an osteoporosis due to a low calcium intake. And on these sort of pastures, there's plenty of calcium in the grass, but it's just not available because it's bound up to these oxalate chemicals.